Okay, how are you?
So we've got a question from Maria asking us, what's the topic today? We're going to get to that. But first, let me do this. I've been waiting for this the entire day. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Monday Motivation with Eugene Wood and myself, Sunil Osman. Crowd goes wild.
The crowd goes wild. Woo! Cool.
All right.
Nice introduction.
So to answer Maria's question, Maria should be our producer. She should really be our producer because she comes up with the most amazing things. And I'm not just saying that because I love her. I'm saying it because she's really got a good head on her shoulders. So there was somebody in our live chat last week who sent me a direct message of a poem he wrote, or an extract of a poem that he wrote, which helped him deal with depression. And depression is one of the things that people are not talking about a lot. So Eugene has now gone to another planet, but he's back again.
I'm just going to get the poem up.
So we're going to get the poem up and we're going to read it. I don't know, do you want to read it or am I going to read it?
I can read it. Let me just get it up on another screen as well.
So this is the poem that helped him get through his depression. And it's something we spoke about just briefly last week, and we felt that a lot of people want to speak about it. So depression comes in many different forms. I'm not a psychologist, but depression comes in many different forms. And sometimes you make yourself depressed just by creating crazy thoughts in your mind or not being able to deal with things happening in 2021. So Eugene, in a very nice, articulate voice, would you like to read that to us?
In the midst of the madness, set yourself mind to calm. What can not be changed cannot cause harm. If a solution arises, a calm mind will comprehend it better. Keeping your mind at ease will eventually solve things quicker. A stressful mind makes your heart weaker, shortening your life with disease and making you sicker.
Some deep, deep stuff there. So the gentleman's name is Aziz, and Aziz is not here with us right now, but we will let him know that we use this poem. We did ask him permission. He said we can absolutely go with it. And yes, absolutely true. That's what Maria says. It's absolutely true. Because it's a lot about mindset, but also being able to understand where you are in depression. I'm not speaking from a point of somebody who's never been depressed. I myself have been on depression medication many years ago. And it's about acknowledging depression. And I spoke to somebody the other day who was depressed, very depressed. And one of the things is that she embraced the fact that she was depressed. She acknowledged it. When somebody who is depressed, or when somebody has a sickness or an ailment and they don't admit to it, they don't embrace it, they can't start dealing with it. And his way of dealing with it was writing that poem as a reminder to himself.
Yes, and having like one of my sayings that I have engraved in my head since the age of 22, 23, basically goes, the darkest moments of our lives are not meant to be buried and forgotten. Rather, they are a memory to be called upon for inspiration, to remind us of the unrelenting human spirit and our capacity to overcome the intolerable. That has stuck with me. It's there, you know what I mean? Because those darkest moments are not there to be buried and forgotten. They're the things that eventually get you to where you are going. But taking them and growing from them is key.
It's being conscious about your depression and the reason you are depressed. Exactly. There are so many people out there who live in denial and they're living a fake life when they actually really need to deal with the reality of what's happening in their lives, whether it be good, whether it be bad, embracing it and embracing with lots of love. Kudos to you, Eugene, for memorizing that entire monologue, because I'm an actor and I don't think I'll be able to memorize that monologue. But obviously you memorize it because it resonates with you for a reason. And everybody has a different way in which to deal with things. You can tell somebody you need to go take a walk for 20 minutes. But if they don't want to walk and they'd rather sit down for 30 minutes or 10 minutes and meditate or just dwell in their emotion, that is what they have to do.
Definitely.
Everybody deals with it differently. Depression and things are also a chemical imbalance. Acknowledging you have that chemical imbalance, taking the medication. I know somebody who's depressed who's not taking the medication and they complain about how depressed they are. And I'm like, you're not taking your medication. Take your pills. You need to be able to take it on. It's a demon which you can attack. You can attack
See,
it.
okay, the medication side of things, okay, for me, I've sometimes see people that get put on medication and then they're not the same anymore. They're not the same people and stuff. And I know this one person, after 2 years, she honestly thought she was doing so much better, went to the doctor, and the doctor was like, no, that was just round one. And she was like, what do you mean? He was like, we just had to get you used to this type of medication. The next one is way stronger. And she was like, but I really don't think I need it anymore. And he was like, no, you do. And I'm like,
Yeah.
how can, like, if she was conquering her demons to battle her depression, someone else just goes, no, we don't think you're ready yet. Cheers. Yeah,
Yeah.
have stronger dose. That to me
Yeah.
doesn't make sense, because the idea is that you're meant to battle your demons. Like, yes, the medicine's going to help you mask a lot of this stuff and help you relax and calm and not live in your head as much. But then are you
Yeah.
dealing with those issues?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, one of the things I have noticed with a couple of my friends who have gone on medication is that the moment they start feeling good, they stop the medication and then they just go on a downward spiral. Something very important which Maria is saying here, which I think is very, 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 very good, is that she believes that to fight depression, you also need to have the appropriate surroundings, like good friends and family.
Yes.
Adante,
Yes.
Adante over here is saying, yep, but she just got worse after that. I see this every day. Absolutely. If you're surrounding yourself with people that are going to bring you down or we're going to look at you negatively
Who
because of the
are
way
negative.
you're, yeah, you
Mm.
depressed, what? Supportive people in your life, like Maria is saying, medication don't really help. It makes you feel good for a few hours. Absolutely. It's an entire
Mm.
lifestyle change and an acknowledgement. It's an embracing of the actual
Correct.
journey.
Correct.
And just like we said last week in the conversation before this gentleman sent us the poem that we read in the beginning of this, when you have somebody that comes to you, and especially the older folk, and I say older because I'm not that old, the older folk will come and they'll say the things like, how can you be depressed? Do you know what I went through in my life when I was young? It's not about you. It's about me right now in this 2021. It's about what I have to deal with or what everybody else has to deal with. There are so many other things out there in society that can make people
Correct.
depressed these days. Look at something like bullying. Bullying went from physical bullying to mental bullying to cyber bullying to comment bullying to like bullying to spam bullying to. There are so many things that have evolved. So you can't compare depression, and this is my opinion, you can't compare what depression was 30, 40 years ago to what
Correct.
people, the youth and the old people, older people.
Our lifestyle is completely different. There's different
Exactly.
pressures placed on us. There's, like, for
Exactly.
instance, like, people that don't understand. There's a comment here by Crimson Cat that says, a lot of people say, change your mindset, just feel better. Like, yes, on one hand, they know nothing about depression and they think, well, it's a mindset thing. At the end of the day, it is a mindset thing, but it's a battle. It's a battle of
Yes.
two sets of minds, and which
Yes.
one is going to prevail eventually puts you where you are going to land up. So if you let the
Exactly.
depression one win and not fight it, and then that's you for. But if you are willing to discover yourself. Because the more I discovered about myself, the more I lifted myself out of my depressional state.
Exactly. And that is the journey of finding yourself. I mean, I myself have been on a very long journey. And when you find yourself, there are two things that can happen. It's going to be extremely scary, but acknowledging who you are and where you come from and where you're going is so important. Adante says here, you got to deal with your shiz. I'm going to say shiz. You got to deal with your shiz. Don't do pills and sleep it away because tomorrow you will feel like it again. Absolutely. And here's a question that we've got, and let's maybe try and address this. I'm reading it as I'm looking at it. I'm like, okay, let's see what Eugene's going to say here. What do you do if your mother-in-law causes your depression? Wow. I have my suggestion. Here's my suggestion. This is, again, lots of what we talk about, our own life experience, our own personal experience. I sometimes extract things from our book and so on. But I'm going to speak now so I can give Eugene time to think about how he's going to answer this. So family is quite a tough thing, especially when it's someone like your mother-in-law or your own parents. But you need to realize that a relationship, whether it be with a brother, a mother, a father, a mother-in-law, reaches a point where it's not going to get better, it's not going to get worse, it just reaches a plateau. The moment you start fighting for something more and there is no more to offer is when the arguments and the fights and things happen. It is your mother-in-law. You should be having the support of your loving husband who understands that she's causing your depression, who should be there to support you. If he's not, clap him. No, I'm joking. Don't clap him. Don't clap him. But find out the source of him supporting her causing your depression. Because I personally know of a guy, he is schizophrenic, he has depression, and he has bipolar. It is a tough journey, but he's got a very supportive mother-in-law. His mother-in-law is actually somebody I call my second mother. You need to have that support structure. If your support structure is not there, you can rely on yourself, but sometimes it becomes lonely. You need other people around. So having people like your mother-in-law causing your depression makes me immediately think, how can you even respect somebody like that? You need to protect yourself, acknowledge that she's causing the depression, embrace the fact that she's causing it, love her still, but tell your brain to shut up and not allow it in. Easier said than done, but
Easier said than done on this topic. Okay, so from my side, I've never been married, so I've never really had the mother-in-law problem. I was in a long-term relationship and had a mother-in-law by some sort of sense.
Default.
But yeah, by default, yeah. But I'll give you the same advice that I gave another person not so long ago. Okay. I first asked, what is your relationship like to your partner? Because that relationship is key. Like the mother-in-law is a secondary wheel she's the third wheel, basically, if you want to put it that way. The main relationship is between the two partners. Okay?
Yes.
Now, if this relationship is solid, then you should be able to go and say, hey, I have a problem with this. And he shouldn't get upset because he has your back. Now, I understand that a lot of guys are like mommy boys and stuff like that, and they probably do a lot for their moms and all that sort of stuff. I get that. Now, at the end of the day, you two are a partnership. So being able to communicate with each other in a way where you're like, hey, this causes a lot of my depression. How can we deal with this together? Because at the end of the day, you have to deal with it together. Otherwise, it's not going to work. I know that's a
Yeah.
horrible thing to say, but it's fact.
Yes. You need to have that open relationship where you can speak about anything and everything as well. Adante is saying here, or keep your distance from the people that causes that.
It's
And
hard
as
when it's a
Maria says,
mother-in-law or father-in-law.
it's hard. But you know what? Even with that, if you look like in life, you sometimes minimize your interaction you have with certain people who don't benefit your energy. And it comes down to energy. And you should be able to be in a relationship where you can say to your partner, okay, we can go to your mother or whatever, but if she says this, then we need to leave. Or you need to protect yourself. You need to protect your energy. And it's hard. You must also remember that the idea of a nuclear family doesn't really exist a lot in society anymore. So
When
minimizing
you
the
say
time,
nuclear family, just to
nuclear
elaborate on
family is
nuclear
like
family.
nuclear family is like mother, father, brother, sister, everybody get together all the time, and all because we are spread all over the world. Social media allows us to still interact with each other. So, and we'll talk about nuclear families again, because but also keeping the distance from the people that causes it is very hard, especially when it comes to family. When it comes to friends, it's a lot easier. You can minimize the interaction, but if you can't minimize the interaction, it's about how you react. When you react to somebody, it causes an energy change within you. So you know that whole saying about take what they say with a pinch of salt. Really take that pinch of salt, a small pinch of salt.
And pretend you're throwing it in your mother-in-law's eye. I'm joking.
No, don't do that.
So there was a follow-up question saying, I get that, but it's also not possible. So that means that the relationship between the two isn't strong enough to be able to say, hey, this hurts. And that's hard. Now we're going into a whole different ball game. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
The best
So
way, Maria says here, the best way is to step up and talk to the mother-in-law. My mother's a magistrate. You must try to talk to her. um,
take
and then
your
Adante says,
size 6 foot and just be like straight up, and then just be like, right, we need to talk.
right.
I'm
Yeah.
joking.
But then you know what? When there is respect, because sometimes we must understand
Both ways.
the the mother, exactly. Sometimes the mother-in-law or whoever it is doesn't know that they're having that effect on you because you don't say anything. If you've said something and they keep doing it, it's another story. Adante says here, no response is also response, like ignoring the negative words. Absolutely. Maria, make her understand that what she is. There we go. Make her understand what she is expecting the family. Exactly what I was saying now. Make her understand that what's happening, you know?
Okay, what happens if that person doesn't do conflict? So
That is when
they would rather not do it, and they would rather just hide.
then you know what will happen there? They'll become aware of it and they'll stop keeping quiet about it, which also is a benefit.
Say that again.
Because say for example, somebody is causing something, and you say and you want to confront the issue. I mean, this is a shot in the dark, but maybe if you mention it, they won't talk about it again because they don't want to deal with that conflict. They don't want to have to deal with
Well,
it. So
I think the person commenting meant that they don't like conflict against their mother-in-law, so they would rather hide. So instead of taking on and mentioning anything at all, rather just deal with those issues. From my point of view, that will start eventually eating up at you.
yes,
That will slowly start eating a little bit more of your soul, and then it's going to get a little bit darker and darker and black, and then you're going to be like, are we going where? No, I don't want to go there. And then
yes,
that gives you a different persona, so that when you get there, you're already giving this different vibe that she might be like, well, what's her problem? Like, you know what I
yeah.
mean? Like
And what you
having that, yeah. Karen?
and what you're doing is you're actually driving yourself into a depression yourself when you get into that situation. You're driving yourself into that negativity. Adante says here, what to do every time you express your feelings? They reply with "grow up." It happens. It happens. It happens. Eugene, you can tackle that one. Then you avoid many interactions with the person. Eventually, they'll get it. Yes, Maria, they will get it. Absolutely. Some people realize they were a bad person once they lose them. There we go. So when you retract and you leave, they go, I haven't seen Eugene for so long. I wonder why. And then that's one way to get to it. And what do you do if they don't want to work or see the problem? If they don't want to work and see the problem, it's frustrating, but it's their issue. It's not your issue. It's their issue.
What happens when your conflict, that person that you have an issue with that causes your depression, lives in the same house as you? Now your conflict, now you don't like conflict. They're in the same environment as you. How do you deal with that?
Eugene, when you don't speak about something, it is like a bottle of champagne. The bubbles will keep going and going and going and going and going.
Awesome.
And even though those bubbles disappear, the champagne is always going to be there. So if the conflict was that champagne, it's always going to be there. Unless you're drinking that champagne and you're taking the bubbles down and dealing with it, it's always going to be there. And what happens with champagne eventually, when you leave it for too long, it becomes stale. And when it becomes stale, it becomes rotten. When it becomes rotten, it starts smelling funny. You don't want to invite that negative energy into your life. One person here says, stay in your room. I don't know why you said you want to marry a pastor, by the way. Not you, Eugene, somebody in here. But stay in your room. Now, if you're staying in your room, dealing with the situation, you're not confronting what is happening. I mean, I hope Maria doesn't mind me mentioning this, but when you're in a relationship and you want to speak about something, if you don't speak about it, you leave it there, it's just going to get worse. It's going to get worse and worse and worse. And what happens when it gets worse? Your soul gets damaged. Your heart gets damaged. You start living a life that is not real and not truthful anymore.
Correct.
What's happening?
And that's the thing.
What if speaking like beacon? What if speaking doesn't even help anymore because it will happen again? Maria says, my personal opinion is to talk, try to solve the conflict, and maybe state the ego. Yes. State your case. State what is going on. State why you are feeling this way. Maybe you're feeling that way because of something from your past or your present or your concerns of the future. But let me address this with you, Eugene. What if speaking doesn't even help anymore because it will happen again?
Okay, so I'm going to take this back a little bit by saying, for people that can't speak, okay, one option is, because you're afraid of conflict, is to actually write it down. Take the time, write it down. You're going to find your first time, especially if it's something that hurts you, you're going to write it down, read it through, wait a day, read through it again, rewrite what you need to go through. You're going to do this at least 2 or 3 times, and by the 3rd or 4th time, it's going to be something that you've gotten off your heart, okay? If you don't do conflict one-on-one, okay? That way, at least it's off your chest and they are made aware of it. I promise you they'll read that whole letter because they are interested, and this way they don't interrupt you because there's nothing to interrupt. They are more curious. They are just going to go through it. Now, if it doesn't work and you have tried and repeatedly tried and tried and tried and it still doesn't work, like Sunil and I have discussed, not just on this one, but on previous lives before, it's about surrounding yourself with people that are going to build you up, not keep breaking you down. If you do not find a way to get out of your depressional state because other people are causing it, you have other issues that you need to deal with first so that you go, well, hang on a minute. This is my problem. How do I solve this problem? I've tried repeatedly. And there's a lot of hard life choices that will need to be made. Some of them you might feel comfortable making. Some people might not. Some people will be like, I can't do that because of fear of failure, rejection, whichever. Pick your fear. You know what I mean?
something I speak about a lot as well that's because of my own awareness and own awakening is levels of consciousness. You must also remember that people are not going to see things the way you see it. Not everybody is like me. Not everybody's like Eugene. And if they are not at the level of consciousness where they want to deal with the issue, you can't do anything about it. It's frustrating. It's very frustrating. But you can't grab them and go, "Can you not see what you are doing to me?" You can't do that. And that is because they are on their own journey. It is their own issues that they need to deal with. Maybe you've got issues
Yes.
yourself. Maybe they need to deal with their own issues. Maria, sometimes reverse psychology works on those people. It really does. It really does. Adante is saying it's not helping me, honestly. And what if you did that already? Are you talking about the writing of the letter there? Sometimes just getting the words out, even if the person doesn't read the letter, is a starting of a healing journey, because you need to heal and look after yourself. I'm
Exactly.
Morty.
At the end of the day, it's about you. It's
Yeah.
your journey. Like Sunil just said now, everyone's on their own journey. You can't, like, at one stage when I was so like, I just want to do all these cool things, like I was speaking to my friends and they just weren't getting it. But it was like, and I couldn't understand why they didn't want to do more and do extra things to be able to get extra and get somewhere further in. I couldn't understand it until my life coach one day said to me that everyone is on their own journey at their own time.
Yeah.
And it took a while for that to actually like sink in, because
Yes.
cool, why don't you want this awesome stuff over here? Like, just don't watch Netflix for 4 hours a day, just study for an
Yeah.
hour. But
Yeah.
everyone's on their own journey.
Yeah.
Now,
Uh,
at the end of the day, you are on your own journey. So
yeah.
whatever you need to do to make you happy, because at the end of the day, when you get old and you die, that is your life.
That's it.
That is you. You can spend 10 years in depression, or you can spend your whole life enjoying it. It really
Yeah.
comes down to you at the end of the day.
Okay. Morty Mort, thanks for sharing the live. Something that Dante has said here is true, but if you don't have any other way out, just stay in your room and pray it gets better. You know what, Adante? At the end of the day, if you find something that's going to work for you, then do it. As I said earlier in the beginning of this conversation, if I say to you, it's going to be a lot better if you go take a walk for 20 minutes. If walking's not your thing, it's not going to make you feel better. It's just going to give you sore calves and thighs and feet. If prayer and just locking yourself in the room helps you, then do it. If it doesn't help you, then don't do it. Then don't do it.
Mm, mm,
It still hurts if people don't see why you are upset. Yes, it will hurt, but you need to acknowledge that it's their thing. It's really their thing. It's not your thing. Everybody's on this journey all the time. I mean, Eugene and I speak about it all the time when we privately talk to each other about our own personal journeys and where we are with our emotions, with our hearts, with our lives, with and like Eugene said, sometimes you just want to go, hey man, there's these cool opportunities. Why don't you take them? I've had them all the time. I had the opportunity to become a multimillionaire by the time I was 26, but it wasn't on my journey. It wasn't on my path. It wasn't about being only rich. I was concentrating more on emotional intelligence and finding myself. And that's my journey. Those people that offered me the job would never understand that. Hi, Vash. We are talking about depression and how to deal with depression. You're welcome. You're
What's
welcome,
happening,
Adante.
everyone?
Like I say, thanks you too. This helped me a lot. We are very, very glad to help. Just remember, the videos will go up every Monday on Influencer SA on the YouTube channel. We've
And the
all gone through depression.
IGTV. And then next week, I will also be putting up the new one.
Okay. More Fenter. Do men talk about feelings? I think this is going to be a topic that Eugene and I will probably dwell into maybe even next week. Because
Yes.
I actually did a video today. If you go to my profile, my personal profile, I did a video that's for men. Because, and no offense to any woman who do this out there, but you need to stop telling men that they are weak when they show their emotions, because it drives them down a spiral. Eugene, it's almost time for us to end. Do you want to maybe
Yes.
conclude with, from your side, what are your takings from this conversation?
When it comes to depression, obviously, like we've said, it is something you need to eventually deal with. There are ways of dealing with it. You need to find your main coping mechanism. Now, if it's an
Yeah.
external force, how do you try and either confront that external force or remove yourself from those external forces that put you in a depressional state? That is something you need to look into. Because at the end of the day, this is your journey, and you can either let it get you and keep letting it get you, or you can work on you, and by the end of it, you'll find a way of coping which will suit you, and you'll develop from there. Sorry, I rambled on a
Yeah.
little bit there.
It sounded like you were trying to make a TikTok sound. Okay. So Vash says to maintain a feeling of a happy space. Absolutely, Vash. Nice of you to be here. Maria saying all living human beings have feelings. Absolutely, Maria. Everybody has feelings, but not enough people are allowed to embrace them because of pride and ego. And they get told that they're weak. Women get told they're weak too. But I think Eugene and I will, maybe we should make that next week's talk. So before we go on for too long, let me conclude my side of things. Eugene.
Yeah.
One of the things that I think is a big takeaway is that acknowledging that you have the depression, acknowledging it so you can deal with it, acknowledging the fact that your mother-in-law is making you depressed. Try and find ways to deal with it. If it doesn't work out, do what you need to do for yourself. Acknowledge, 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 because it is a real thing. And we've evolved to a point where depression has become a whole other ball game. Forget the fact that we had the lockdown and coronavirus. It's been around for a long time. What depression was 20 and 30 years ago is not the same thing. There are new levels of depression, and I'm speaking with my hands like a Greek again. Eugene, this has been another awesome Monday motivation with Eugene Wood and myself, Sunil Osman.
Thank you very much, dude. I do appreciate you popping in. And next week we'll talk about men and talking about their feelings.
Men and Emotions next week, 3:30 in the afternoon, Standard South African time, on TikTok Live. Put the notifications on. Looking forward to it. Sending lots and lots of love and light to everybody.
Cool. Have a good day, guys. Thank you very much. Take care.